Welcome to the podcast that brings you interviews, reviews, arts and entertainment news, all wrapped up in one place. You're listening to Art to Art with Amanny Mo. Coming up in this episode... If you love your comedy, do not miss out on the feminist comedian who likes nothing better than to talk dirty to me. Oh yeah, a little bit of filthy chats on the way with the hilarious Eleanor Conway.
I moved to Asia when I just finished university with a man that used to sell me stuff. With a man that I knew from university, let's just put it like that. He drove a flashy car, and then I ran away with him to teach English to Asia.
From comedy to TV and a king, Tony Curran is that and a whole lot more. A force of nature, if you will, especially in this spicy, subversive period drama, Mary and George.
Historically, shooting that scene in a room where apparently they met, and like 400 years later, you're in a drama dressed as a Jacobean king, checking out this young feller, where apparently you may have met for the first time, kind of bakes my noodle.
Also, you may have caught the movie in cinemas, but it's available on your small screens. True wrestling story, The Iron Claw, from award-winning director Sean Durkin, where the actors were very hands-on.
Getting wrestling right is really important, and so we worked really hard. The guys learned how to wrestle full matches. That was really important. Did their own stunts. They really had to learn how to do it, and that was a big part of it.
And lest we forget about the watch list. Yes, that all-important to-do list from the arts and entertainment world. All of my guests will be sharing theirs, but I'm wondering what's on yours. And of course, Art to Art wouldn't be what it is without the uplifting tunes composed by my nephew, Luca Mo. That's right at the end of the pod in a segment we call Nef Jam. So let's take that deep dive into the minds of the very people who bring us the arts and entertainment. Are you ready? Let's do this! You're listening to Art to Art with Amanny Mo, and I'd love to have an Art to Art with you. First up, it's time to have a cheeky bit of fun in part one of my chat with comedian Eleanor Conway, who's currently out on tour with Talk Dirty to Me. Eleanor is certainly your one-of-a-kind comedian who's very candid, not only about her past with shows like Walk of Shame, parts 1 and 2, and you may recognise me from Tinder, which sold out at Edinburgh Fringe Festival, but also in her new show. She's certainly not holding anything back. Eleanor may have sold out 3 tours worldwide, but she's here to have an art-to-art with me. One of us is certainly winning. Yeah, okay. Here's part 1 of our conversation. Well, look, you know, the last time we spoke, Eleanor, was back in, I think, July last year on my BBC radio show, and there were lots of things we couldn't say back then. The producer, I think, probably briefed you and said, this is a Saturday morning show. Don't say anything too naughty.
Was I good? I don't remember.
You were, but it was very funny because we were both giggling about skirting around a few issues.
Sounds typical. I wish I could do stuff around like cheese or eggs. I don't know why I have to be such a filth bomb. Or so. Why am I so interested in the granular misogyny of women's bodies? I don't know. Why can't I just talk about night buses?
It just wouldn't have as much fun or kind of grit to it, I think. And lots of people kind of avoid those subjects. I mean, look, I want to go back a little bit, Eleanor, before we go forward to the present day. You studied music, didn't you? And then you were a music journalist for a while. So tell us a little bit about that. And then how did you end up in stand-up comedy? Because, you know, as a journalist myself, it's quite far removed, but not, because I'm imagining there's lots of stories here.
Yeah, I mean, I used to run around nightclubs, film them, and talk to DJs and hip-hop acts. And I moved to Asia when I just finished university with a man that used to sell me stuff. with a man that I knew from university. Let's just put it like that. He drove a flashy car, and then I ran away with him to teach English to Asia, and I moved to Korea, and that didn't work very well because we were sort of being a bit illegal, and so we had to pack a suitcase in the middle of the night, and we decided on Taiwan. I initially thought Saudi Arabia would be a great idea, and then. And then we decided not to do that. I moved to Taipei in Taiwan, and that was at the start of their like club revolution, nightclub revolution. Like dance music could kind of really spread internationally. It was the early noughties, and there used to be a list on the side of the wall in the office, and they just cross off the top 100 DJs, and we get people over like Coolio, Public Enemy, all sort of like,
oh wow,
and then you get like Pete Tong and stuff like that, and which is it was of its time, the early noughties. And then I got back from Asia and won a competition with Virgin Music to do the same again. And so I did that, and I was also harbouring a very active alcohol problem at the time. And with all of these things, they kind of come to a head, and you start saying things to people that you shouldn't be. Do you know what I mean? Telling bosses what you think of them. Do you know, classic stuff. And I had to get sober. Also, like, I was hitting late 20s, early 30s, and the only way that to move forward in music stuff is to kind of be a Joe Wiley or a Lauren Laverne, and I'm not that good at remembering facts about. I don't really care too much. I like music, but I don't care in a sort of real bod way. And I just thought, I'm too old for T4. What else can I do? What else can I do? And then I just sort of landed in comedy, faffed around a bit, just not really doing comedy and trying to create chat shows and basically avoiding telling jokes in a vulnerable way. And then I hit a rock bottom in 2014 personally, and then I got sober. And then I was like, oh my God, everyone needs to hear about my crazy life so far. So I wrote a show which was called Walk of Shame, which was the show that I debuted as a stand-up hour in 2016, and then the rest is history, really.
I mean, when you look back at that show, and obviously you kind of made yourself quite vulnerable, telling some quite personal stories. I haven't seen the show, but I've seen bits of it online. People probably really appreciated that, but it's also amazing that you could laugh at some of those things yourself, given that you were struggling at that time.
Yeah, well, the Walk of Shame was like the addiction show, and I talked about how like the partner that I'd been living in Asia was, not a nice guy. And so really I should have gone to therapy, if I'm honest. I'll be honest with you. But a lot of the sober journey, especially for a woman, is about the shameful things that happened to you. And, and I think probably on some level, I believed that I deserved violence, right, in a personal relationship. It was one of the secret things to tell other people, that I thought they would be like my abuser and tell me that it's your fault. I should have gone to therapy. I should have. But what I got in those rooms when I did it, I mean, I made people cry. Like, people were laughing and crying, but what I got was love and acceptance on a real, like, spiritual way. And from that moment, I've always done, well, up until recently, I've kind of done shows that, my 2019 show was You May Recognise Me from Tinder, which was about my journey to trying to be, basically I was a sugar baby for a very brief time as part of the reason of getting sober, because I just thought, well, I'm having all this terrible sex with men in blackout. Maybe I should get something out of it, like money. That's what God wants me to do. That's what the universe wants me to do. Charge for it, because obviously I'm fantastic at it. And obviously that wasn't the answer, and that I have a very complicated view of sex work and the adult industry, and that kind of viewpoint sort of shifts and changes the older I get. That idea of like, yeah, sex work is work, yeah, but sure, wouldn't it be nice if we lived in a world where that wasn't like an option, like that wasn't one of the things that women could do. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
I guess you need all of these things to kind of grow, and I wouldn't have gotten sober if I hadn't done the sugar baby stuff, and I wouldn't have written a show about the orgasm gap if I hadn't have done those very visceral like gritty shows about addiction, domestic abuse, sex work from my own personal trauma. But yeah.
Some reviews said you were brave and things like that, because actually when people come to your shows, you don't know what they're going through. They may actually be going through the very thing that you are talking about. You mentioned shame earlier, and I think there is a lot of shame, especially for women. It's that double standard as well that I find still unacceptable to this day, but, you know, it's there. And so I feel that somebody like you, Eleanor, and your comedy, and we can laugh about things, that does break down barriers. Do you feel the same way?
I think there is a slight bit of misogyny when it comes to women like performing trauma stories. It's almost like we have to perform the trauma for everybody else in order to be, you know, to get accolades. And actually I've got no more trauma to mine because I'm a woman that's nearly 10 years sober now. So all of the trauma happened honestly like a lifetime ago.
Yeah.
And so I actually safeguard my own self now in a way that previously I thought I had to give of myself in order to get sort of critical traction or something like that. And it's funny because like the street interviews that I've been doing online have really blown up. And, you know, that was born from a place of seeing usually American men ask hot women on nights out very sexually intimate questions like, what's your body count? And it's almost like women, you know, it's almost like women are expected to give of their own personal lives for clickbait or whatever it might be, for value on the internet. We're supposed to give of ourselves, the trauma, the secrets. And that sort of spurred me to kind of go out and ask questions on the streets of people, because I thought, well, that guy is asking that woman about her body count. But what he's doing is he's trying to monetize her body or her personal experiences with her body. And it's just another element of misogyny I just really hate. To be honest.
No, I completely get it. I mean, interestingly, just because I woke up this morning and one of the first things I saw was Hannah Waddingham with the press at the Olivier Awards. Well, you can't really hear the paparazzi, but somebody shouts out, "Show us a bit more of your leg," or something like that. And she absolutely nails him to the floor. She walks off, and rightfully so. But we've moved on a bit, but not enough. Not for my liking anyway. I wonder what your take on it is.
Oh, don't get me started. I mean, but that's it, isn't it? So, you know, in my show, Talk Dirty to Me, which I'm currently touring, I talk about this idea of like the women like in this country, because obviously like women have experiences globally that aren't just my experience, but women in this country, like we've got a lot of freedoms in the last sort of since the 60s really, but we're still not earning as much as the men. The orgasm gap still exists, the motherhood gap, you know, the unpaid domestic labor working mothers, you know, do in comparison to their male partners in the house is vastly unequal. And I think, you know, when I think about myself in my 20s and it was the 90s and like the Spice Girls were in power, girl power, and we thought everything was equal. We thought everything was equal. But that is because I was young and because I didn't realise, I was still in the eye of the patriarchy, right?
Yeah.
You know, and I thought, oh, it's fine. I won't have to deal with the misogyny of my mother's era. I'm fine. But that's only because I'm young and hot. And I just don't think you realise how misogynistic the world is until you experience life as an older woman. And I think what's great about 2024 is this digital feminism. We are able to kind of unite, which women are brilliant at, and create these movements online where women are talking and older women and younger women are talking, and we're all going, oh yeah, marriage isn't really a benefit to us straight women in this current climate. And it's just it's exciting, it's sad, and we need to do more of that, because pornography is some of the most misogynistic, violent imagery out there. Like when I looked at Pornhub, just for research,
obviously,
when I looked under the female orgasm category, there's only 142,000 videos, and then there's 242,000 videos of teen. So it's adult women pretending to be children, and the rest of the content is just women being used as objects. But you know, we have to have more conversations around all of this sort of stuff because it's not going away.
That that's just part one of my chat with the feminist force of nature comedian Eleanor Conway, whose tour, Talk Dirty to Me, is in full swing. You can head on over to her website, eleanorconway.com, for more gig and ticket information, or just follow her on socials. You're listening to Art with Amanny Mo. Yep, that's me, where we bring you some cosy conversations with some fabulous people from the world of arts and entertainment. You can access all available podcast episodes on all major podcast platforms, or you can head on over to the website, Art, that's art.podbean.com. And if you want to search me out on socials, it's just AMANNYMO, all one word, on Instagram or X, formerly known as Twitter. Still to come in this episode of Art, you can hear part 2 of my convo with Talk Dirty to Me comedian Eleanor Conway. I'll be having a good old chinwag with the wonderful actor Tony Curran. He's been in way too many TV shows to mention. He'll be divulging his experience of working with Julianne Moore and Nicholas Galitzine in the rather spicy period drama Mary and George. If you're looking for that little bit of inspo on what to watch or read, even go and see, well, the watch list is here to help. More on that from my guests in a moment. But next up, I'll be wrestling with film writer-director Sean Durkin. Of course, metaphorically speaking, as we get the lowdown on his latest movie. The Iron Claw is a movie about a wrestling family, the Von Erichs, who pushed through poverty to achieve great success in the American wrestling world back in the 80s. But with enormous pressure comes the pitfalls, and what we see is an almost unbelievable family tragedy. Zac Efron, who is almost unrecognisable in this role, he stars as one of the 4 tight-knit band of brothers who join him in the wrestling ring. Writer-director Sean Durkin made the decision not to involve the Von Erichsen family in the writing or pre-production process, but what's interesting is that he's always been a wrestling fan.
Ever since I was a child, people said my family was cursed. Mom tried to protect us with God. Pop tried to protect us with wrestling. He said if we were the toughest, the strongest, nothing had ever hurt us. I believed him. We all did. Together, we can do anything.
We're here to restore justice to the Wrestling Federation that our father built with his own 2 hands. The hands that were passed down to us. The hands that will deliver the Iron Claw to you.
Hi.
No way! Is this Sean Durkin? The Sean Durkin?
Hi, how's it going?
Very well. How are you, Sean?
Good, thank you.
The film, The Iron Claw, absolutely fantastic. And actually, the good news is you don't have to be a wrestling fan to enjoy it. I wanted just to start with the creative process and, you know, as a writer and director and creating this story, and also you're a wrestling fan yourself, how do you go about creating a script that both satisfies, you know, making a movie, so the creative license side of things, but also, you know, keeping in mind that this is a real family's life, the Von Erichs that we're talking about? Take us through some of the challenges in that decision-making process.
I started out as a fan, and so for me it was, you know, started with those brothers in the ring in the 1980s and just being a fan of theirs and identifying that brotherhood and that love that they had. And so, you know, I knew that was going to be central to the film, and celebrating that, as well as, you know, their loss really stayed with me. I remember where I was when I found out that Carrie had died, and, you know, I was 11 years old, and so their loss haunted me. The combination of those things I knew would be crucial to the film, and getting the balance between them, as well as the balance between making a film about wrestling that you don't need to like wrestling at all to love the movie, you know. So it was an entire balancing act, and I started with a lot of research and laid out this family in as much detail as I could, and everything that happened to them. And, what I was looking at was this epic Greek tragedy set in Texas. And the process then became about chipping away at that story to get to the core of what this movie, this version of the story would be. And, there's a lot of really difficult decisions. There's a lot of things that happen in the family that didn't fit into the film because you can only choose so much. So I was just always trying to make those decisions with sensitivity and love, really. The film very much comes from a place of love.
And actually, you can really see that, Sean.
Thanks.
You can really sense that. It comes from a place of love and real care and due diligence and attention. Because the most important thing is, whether people like wrestling or not, the story itself, as you mentioned, is really, really so tragic in many ways and also so beautiful in many ways. The brotherhood of the boys was just so lovely, the way they relied on each other to pull each other through. I wondered, in terms of the authenticity of it, we talk about the casting of the main protagonists, so Kerry, Kevin, David, and of course the father, Fritz. How important and how key was it getting the authenticity right, not only in these characters, but also the authenticity of the actual wrestling, because my goodness, Zac Efron, I was like, what? That can't be him.
Yeah, he worked very hard to transform and learn how to wrestle, and just full commitment. It's very beautiful. Yeah, the wrestling, getting wrestling right is really important. Wrestling is a community that if you don't get it right, you get taken down. And so I had to get it right, and I worked at it. Had a great wrestling choreographer named Chavo Guerrero, and we worked really hard. The guys learned how to wrestle full matches. That was really important. Did their own stunts. They really had to learn how to do it, and that was a big part of it. And then even just the authenticity of character. Like I always think about Holt McCallany, who plays Fritz. He's the fabric of the film because he's such a specific person from a specific time and place. And he just has to be, that actor playing that role has to be so authentic and so real to that time and place in order for it all to make sense. And so things like that were really, really important to just make it all feel right.
And have you had any feedback from either kind of real wrestlers from the wrestling world, wrestling fans, or even the Von Erich family themselves?
Yeah, lots, but all of the above. Yeah, big positive response from wrestlers in particular.
Oh, phew.
Yeah. Oh no, they really, really respond. The Von Erich family, I've become quite close with. They've been so supportive and been a part of this process throughout. And so it's been really good.
We talk about, bonding, so this family bond, even through the tragedy, even through the masculinity side of things where they were told not to show their emotion, which I think is also part of the era as well, rather than just Fritz being a taskmaster. I've got a confession, Sean.
Okay.
It's not what you think. It was a real bonding experience for me and my father when I was growing up to watch wrestling. So I was a big wrestling fan because of my dad, actually. So this was really interesting because it snapped me right back to being like a 8-year-old, 9-year-old, 10-year-old kid, enjoying wrestling with my dad. And it was something I'd completely forgotten about.
Oh, that's amazing.
So thank you for that.
That's amazing. Yeah, for me too, it was the same. My dad would watch wrestling with me. I think he was confused by wrestling. I think he was confused by my love for wrestling, but he was really supportive and took me anytime it came through town.
It's absolutely brilliant. It's such an incredible film and really emotional as well. And, for those people that think, the Iron Claw, it's just for wrestling fans, what would you say, Sean?
Not at all. I mean, wrestling fans can enjoy it, but it's not for wrestling fans. It is about family. It's about how we communicate within a family. And it's about, as kids who become parents and how we change the trends, of our families that we want to change to give our kids a better life.
And finally, my podcast, Art to Art, we always ask people, what's on your watch list? So this can be anything, whether it's something to read, listen to, like a podcast, a film that you haven't got around to seeing. So Sean Durkin, what is on your watch list?
I'm really into like 90s kind of psychological thrillers right now. So I think Jacob's Ladder was next on my watch list.
Oh my goodness. That's such a great answer. I was not expecting that, Sean. Wow. Okay. You're making me want to go back and watch it. Fantastic movie. And this is just because you need to go back and see it again?
Yeah, I haven't seen it in a long time. And I'm working on some stuff in that sort of inspired by that genre and that era. So yeah, I've been on a deep dive of 90s thrillers.
Amazing. Sean, loving your work, love that answer. Thank you so much for having a chat with me today.
Thanks so much.
You feel that? That's pressure.
You push it too hard.
I'm fine, kid. Seriously, I'm just sick.
I'm scared, man. It all out of control. I should have stopped him. I need to think about my family.
Your job is to wrestle. Live up to that deal or we are through.
What an absolute joy to chat to filmmaker Sean Durkin, and I think we may have even got a bit of an exclusive there. Watch this space. Could he be remaking Jacob's Ladder or something similar? Well, remember where you heard it first. His film, The Iron Claw, is streaming on all major platforms now, or you can even get yourself a copy of the DVD or Blu-ray now. You're listening to Art with Amanny Mo. We aim to bring you some fabulous conversations with a whole variety of guests from the arts and entertainment world. Feel free to find me on socials at Amanny Mo, that's AMANNYMO, on Instagram or X, formerly known as Twitter. Or if you want to check out all available episodes, all you need to do is go to Art, that's art, the number 2, art.podbean.com. Still to come, you can hear the ever so slightly saucier part 2 of my conversation with comedian Eleanor Conway, whose show Talk Dirty to Me is out on tour at the Mo. But coming up next, let's get into period drama costumes and maybe some wigs for a little chinwag with Mary and George actor Tony Curran. And don't forget, there's another original composition designed to fill your soul with good vibes. It's another Neff jam from the musical mind of my nephew, Luca, right at the end of the pod. Now, there's never a dull moment when it comes to actor Tony Curran. We've seen him as the nasty mafia henchman in Your Honour, a sergeant in Ray Donovan, and he's playing Lord Lovett in the upcoming prequel Outlander Blood of My Blood. But for now, we can watch him exercise his power and demons as King James I in the latest super spicy and subversive period drama, Mary and George. I caught up with Tony to hear the ins and outs of filming the series, and if you haven't seen it yet, you're so missing out.
We have nothing.
If this became known, your position in society would become untenable.
My son, change does not come unless you grab it by the hand. Give the king whatever he wants.
May I perform for you?
He will be yours, mine, ours.
Tony, how are you?
I'm good, Amanny. How are you?
I am very well, all the better for talking to you, Tony, and not King James I.
Well, they're inseparable.
Yeah, indeed.
Oh dear.
My goodness, what a fabulous series. Mary and George has just blown my mind, and I've only been privy to 3 episodes so far. Very excited about it. But would you mind, Tony, just setting the scene for us and telling us a little bit about where your character, King James I, fits into this story?
Yeah, at this period of time, we pick up James around about 1605, and he's in his court. He has his wife, Queen Anne. He has his 3 children, and at this time there are certain individuals within the court who are ascending through the court, i.e. a certain Mary Villiers and her son. They unfortunately at that time for many women, they don't have a lot of power, they don't have much agency, but Mary Villiers is a very canny, uncompromising individual, and she's very smart, and she realises that King James has a penchant, you might say, for young men, and her son just happens to be rather a bit of a dish and a sporting chap and a musician, and she plants him within King James's court, and I notice him. In fact, we actually shot that scene in a room, the counting house, near Spitalfields in London, and apparently that was the room where they both saw each other for the first time.
Oh, wow.
So historically, shooting that scene in a room where apparently they met, and like 400 years later, you're in a drama dressed as a Jacobean king, checking out this young feller, where apparently you may have met for the first time, kind of bakes my noodle somewhat. So I'm like, don't ever tell me that to the director. Don't tell me those things before I shoot it. You know, it makes me nervous. I'm nervous enough, you know. So at this period of time, Amanny, he becomes embroiled with this young man, and there's obviously George Villiers has certain ways of his currency is a sexual currency of using, and I'm not sure if he's abusing people to get to a certain level, and he ends up him and his mother become quite powerful. I bestow upon them the Duke and Duchess of Buckingham. And they sort of ascend their way through the ranks of royal life, as it were.
Incredible. I mean, you know, I'm watching it thinking, my goodness, I don't know that I'd want to have lived during that time. I love all the kind of backstabbing and the bitching and moaning and trying to outdo each other, but the story is wonderful in the sense that it's different. It's a different kind of period drama, in where we actually see that the story doesn't shy away from the sexuality and the homosexuality or the identity of some of these characters, you know, some of the coarse language that we're not used to seeing, other than probably The Favourite, which shocked everybody a few years ago.
Yeah, sure.
And Julianne Moore, my goodness, she's so uber unbreakable, isn't she, as the matriarch?
Yeah, she's a powerhouse, yeah.
She sure is. What drew you to, you know, the story? What did you learn that you didn't perhaps know before?
Yeah, it's a great question. Yeah, I mean, getting back to your first point, I think the script, you know, it's a contemporary. The connection I think everybody had to it was the script was so the language was very relatable. It's very colourful. The vernacular.
Colourful's a good word.
It seemed very real. Not that everybody's swearing and using that terminologies, but that's kind of the way some people speak if they want to get their point across. They do have a vehemence to them, and there was something about the script which I think everybody related to, that it was a contemporary tale. There's a sexual sort of nature, a dance within it. There's a political intrigue. There's scandalous. There's murder. There's vengeance. There's desire. There's lust. There's love. I mean, it's all basic human emotions that are still, that haven't gone anywhere in 400 years. They're still part of us as our human psyche. I just guess with the beautiful costumes and production values and the sets. It just sort of raises the sort of the feeling of it. I think to watch it and to actually to be embroiled in that world is sort of a richness. But sometimes with costume drama it can be like a bit, I don't know, sort of stuffy, or a bit too. It seems people can't really relate to it. It seems otherworldly. I think the show, hopefully, people relate to it because it is got a contemporary feel to it, but it's still set in this sort of Jacobean sort of setting.
I have the power, I have the king, I have England.
What could possibly stop us now?
Do be careful.
The other thing is that we've seen you in so many different kinds of genres, playing so many different characters. Loved you in Ray Donovan. You're back for another Outlander, which is fantastic. You've even, done things like Mayflies with Martin Compston, who I love as well. I went clubbing with him once in Edinburgh at the festival many years ago with
Martin's
him and Phil.
A riot, isn't he?
Oh, isn't he just the best? Such a gentleman as well.
So fun. He's a sweetheart. He's a sweetheart.
Absolute sweetheart.
When he goes out, he does not hold back. He's a force of nature. Yeah, he's a total joy. He works so hard, and he's a good friend, such a lovely, credible actor.
So amazing actor.
But he's equally a wonderful hedonist as well,
Oh, I love that.
He loves to have a good time, yeah.
Yeah, totally. I've witnessed that and enjoyed it firsthand.
Yeah.
I mean, look, if you could pick any role, Tony, anything that, whether it's past or present or something you'd really like to do or a genre you'd like to do, what would it be?
Oh, that's a great question.
Thank you.
There's always something I've been attracted to in a kind of genre and a filmic sense, because one of my favourite films as I was growing up and sort of influenced me was a film called Angels with Dirty Faces, and it was a Jimmy Cagney film. The time of films like The Maltese Falcon or The Third Man, these sort of old sort of 30s, 40s movies, because there's a scene where Jimmy Cagney gets taken to the electric chair. I remember watching this when I was like 7 or 8, and there's a priest there, and the priest is saying to him, listen, you have to squeal, because if you squeal, the kids that followed your bad, your sort of Machiavellian, nasty ways, they're not going to look up to you anymore. They're going to go, oh, he's a coward. He was a coward. And Jimmy Cagney's like, no, there's no way. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. And it ends up, eventually, he succumbs and he's walking towards the chair. And I remember seeing, he's sort of an anti-hero, this Cagney character. And as he's walking towards the electric chair, this badass, he starts doing this, I don't want to go, and he ends up sort of crying and screaming, and they have to drag him to the electric chair. It's a bit sinister and dark, but
I wasn't expecting that.
He ends up succumbing to the priest's wishes, and hopefully the kids hear about this and they don't go down that dark road that he went down. So for me, yeah, I'd love to do I'd love to do something like that in a sort of gangster sense, as a sort of I have to say, I can't say too much about it, but there's some ideas in the sort of I've got in the pot right now with a friend of mine who's a production company, so
exciting.
That may come to pass, I can put on my American accent and hopefully not butcher it,
I'm so up and in for that. I'll be there, right, pushing you all the way, Tony.
Bless. Thank you, Amanny. I hope you enjoy the rest of the show.
Thank you so much. What a pleasure and a joy to chat with you.
Thanks, honey. Thank you. Bye, love. Thank you.
That boy, how far will he go? There's nothing he wouldn't do. I was raised by a monster.
Only children believe in monsters.
The super talented Scottish actor Tony Curran there. What a genuinely lovely man. If you haven't got a whiff of this series yet, oh my goodness, you are in for a treat. The outrageously, deliciously dark Mary and George can be watched on a number of subscription platforms like Sky and Now TV in the UK, Starz in the US, and various other platforms via the giants like Amazon. And it's really, really juicy. It's epic with all the backstabbing and double-crossing. Oh, and don't be fooled into thinking this is any old ordinary period drama. Trust me, it most definitely is not. You're listening to Art with me, your host, Amanny Mo. You can catch up with all episodes on our website, art2art.podbean.com. Next up, let's head on back to brilliant Talk Dirty to Me comedian and staunch feminist Eleanor Conway. And don't forget, there's another groovy, uplifting Neff Jam from my rather brilliant nephew right at the end of the pod.
Straight men will just use pictures that they happen to be in, no matter the context. It is, isn't it? They were passing a CCTV camera. The group shot pic from Malaga, lads holiday, lads TV. I saw a guy on Bumble the other day and he put his wedding picture. He hadn't even cropped out the bride. And my friend was like, at least you know he's like the commitment type.
Talk Dirty to Me is your latest tour. What other inspiration have you taken with this show? Where does it come from and what can we expect from Talk Dirty to Me?
I think I've just always felt a bit weird for not wanting kids, right? I talk about it in the show, like my mum raised the three of us and, you know, my dad did contribute money, but like she was left to it. And I just talk when you break down the economics of like childcare and how men financially benefit even after divorce, right? Even though they give child support, it's never enough. It never raises in line with inflation. It enables usually the father to do better at work, but yet the bonuses and the pay rises don't make their way down to the mother's household. And you know, I know for my mum, she had to stay in flexible low paid jobs, and I just thought. I don't know, I just saw that it's a lot of work raising kids and it's not fair. Like the labour split isn't fair. And I think it just put me off. And I always thought I was weird for it. And I thought, hang on, there was just this real conflict of like, I believe in my heart that I don't want kids and for very valid reasons. And yet I'm being made to feel a bit weird because I'm saying this. And so it's come from that place. It's also come from the place of like the orgasm gap. You know, there's some amazing stats out there that say that, you know, in partnered sex, 95% of straight men orgasm with their partners. Gays and lesbians are at like 86 and 89, and straight women are at 65%. But if we have casual sex, that could be 4%.
Gosh.
And this idea, I know, and this idea that pleasure is gatekept behind long-term relationships with men. And the reason that we don't orgasm is basically because straight sex hinges around penetrative sex, which isn't how women orgasm. And so there's just a real deep misogyny around pleasure. And now, you know, we've got bank accounts, we've got reproductive pill in this country. I think it's time for a revolution to kind of decide, what do we want? Is pleasure really serving men and family? Or was that just what our grandmothers had to do because they didn't have bank accounts?
And also, I mean, I think talking about these things and being open just opens a conversation and makes it more accessible rather than being a shameful secret or something you don't want to talk about or a subject you don't even know how to broach. And like you said, there's a real strength in numbers these days, which I absolutely love and adore. I wondered what has been the response to your show, Talk Dirty to Me, so far? Because I know you've still got much of the talk to go, but have you gauged a kind of reaction to this show?
First, I just want to say, like, there are loads of brilliant men, but like, you know, for the most part, the standards are low that we collectively hold for straight men. So like, you know, the men that do step up, like, all power to them. We love them. The reaction's been good. I think women are like, I'm going to start a revolution. I think some of the men are a little bit like, oh, wow, okay. You know, I think the biggest compliment actually is, you know, a woman came up to me, I think it was in Liverpool. She was like, I'm usually, because my shows are quite dirty. She went, I'm quite a prude, but I loved that show. And I'm like, yeah, good, because it isn't just about like the, you know, dirty stories. There is a fundamental like feminist core underneath it, you know. So yeah, usually positive. Usually either men have been dragged as a kind of like side, like, I want you to see this show. Or they're one of the really good ones. Do you know what I mean? The ones that are like, this isn't about me. I am not affected by this.
Yeah. What's the kind of strangest thing, if anything at all, that's happened to you during any of your stand-up tours as a comedian? Because I know quite a few comedians and I know it's so not easy.
Just usually men walking out.
And you're all right with that, I can see.
Oh, no, I don't care. It's just like groups of like 8 men that have walked into the show by mistake. I'm like, I'll give you 20 minutes before you walk out.
20 minutes is long. That's a long time. Your show is also in London, Cambridge and various places across the UK, but you're also heading to Germany for a couple of dates, Berlin and where's the other place? Hamburg. So middle of May, you'll be heading there. And actually, my podcast, Art to Art, after the UK and Australia, for some reason, Germany is third on the biggest listenership for this podcast.
Germany love me too, baby.
Germany love you. They love you.
Ich habe ein Kopfschmerzen, Germany. That's all I know.
Hang on. What did you just say, Eleanor?
Ich habe ein Kopfschmerzen. That's all I know. It means I have a headache. I don't know how far that's going to get me.
With all the tours that you've done that have not been in the UK or where English is the predominant language, do you ever find, and I love asking this question of comedians, that sometimes you've got to tweak the joke a little bit to make kind of sense to your audience, or do you just go with what you've got, whether you get it or not, you'll get the gist sort of thing?
I toured the US in 2022 and I often do Australia and stuff. It's been a while since I've done Europe actually, but yeah, I will run through it and just kind of make sure that the references make sense. So if it's a boots, like what's the Australian equivalent of boots? You know what I mean? I like to say that I'm professional, I do it in advance. So I have been known to realise in the middle of saying the sentence and being like, oh God, sorry, boots. What's boots? Yeah. But I'm not perfect.
Imperfectly perfect. That's it.
100%.
Absolutely. What are the comedy do's and don'ts? If somebody's listening and thinking, I really want to get out of this 9-to-5 job that I'm doing and everyone tells me I'm funny, maybe, or maybe not, and they just want to get into comedy. What's a couple of things that you've learned along the way that you could share?
There's not that much money in it. No, there is. Look, what have I learned along the way? Just be you. Nobody can be you. Everyone else is taken. Be you. Be funny.
Easier said than done.
Enjoy it.
I think that's fair. And just finally on Art to Art, we always ask our guests, what is on your watch list? Now, the watch list could be something you've just seen or read or whatever that is absolutely brilliant that you'd like to recommend. And then we'd also love to ask you if you've got anything that's on your list of things to do, see, watch, go to an event, possibly.
I've got it. So what I've seen recently is The 3-Body Problem on Netflix. So it's basically, I can't remember the name of the author who wrote it, but it's like a Chinese sci-fi that they've adapted for Netflix. That's really good. I love a dystopian sci-fi. And then something that I just binged watched, Richard Gadd, Baby Reindeer.
Oh my God, I binged it and literally mind blown. Amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing. And like, I remember seeing Richard, like, I haven't seen him do his Edinburgh show, but like I was at Edinburgh when he was doing both of the shows, and it's funny because like I've heard about this stalker that Richard had. I mean, I don't know Richard, but like, you hear gossip and it's like, oh God, it was really dark, really, really dark.
Really
and the fact
dark.
That he's being lauded.
Yeah, it's really dark, but actually, you know what? It's refreshing I almost want to say, to hear a man's experience as well. It's not something you hear a lot about. And whether, take it whichever way you want, but I just thought that Baby Reindeer was just quite incredible, the way it starts out as a comedy and then it really twists and your mind just goes, oh my goodness, where are we going with this? And also the fact that it's true story and all of that stuff was fascinating, was absolutely incredible. What did you think at the end of the series, Eleanor? Just saying, I want to know.
I hope there's not a sequel. I hope it's not a sequel. I hope it's done and dusted. Incredible.
Wow.
And then
Amazing.
I saw a TikTok ad for something I want to go and see, actually. Billy Piper's doing something at the National. I want to go and see that.
Oh, I wonder what that is, actually. I'll put it in the description. You're on tour with Talk Dirty to Me. Where can we find you, Eleanor?
You can find all the information at eleanorconway.com, and that's also at Eleanor Conway's on my Instagram and TikTok and all that jazz.
Perfect. And you've got to check out Eleanor's interviews on TikTok and Instagram, actually. I love those little short bits. They're so, so funny. They're absolutely genius.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you. That's brill.
Thanks, my love.
I absolutely love Eleanor's honesty. It's wonderful to hear that her comedy also has serious feminist undertones. You know, the things that some women just can't talk about. It's really, really important to have that out there as well. And I cannot wait to catch up with her when she comes to my area very soon. If you want to find out more information about her show, Talk Dirty to Me, you can head on over to eleanorconway.com or just find her on socials for the latest updates. Well, that's it for another episode of Art to Art with me, Amanny Mo. You can find me on socials at Amanny Mo or have a listen to lots more episodes of arts and entertainment from the very creative people that make that stuff for us to enjoy. You're listening to Art with Amanny Mo. Please don't forget to like, follow and share with your pals, or you can listen to all episodes for free by heading on over to art.podbean.com. It's Nef Jam O'Clock, where you get to hear a rather excellent piece of music from my very talented nephew, Luca Mo. If you like the jam, feel free to check out Luca's socials. It's just at Luca Mo Music. So that's a wrap. I must say a massive thank you to my amazing guests, the absolute darling of an actor, Tony Curran, the talented The Iron Claw director, Sean Durkin, and the formidable force of nature, comedian Eleanor Conway. Thank you to Luca Mo for the Art to Art titles and incidental music, and a very warm, heartfelt thanks to you for listening and supporting Art to Art with Amanny Mo. You can listen back to any episodes you may have missed on all major platforms now. Until next time, see ya! You're listening to Art with Amanny Mo. This is your podcast that brings you interviews, reviews, arts and entertainment news, all wrapped up in one place.